Most men believe attraction is built through long conversations, emotional explanations, or saying the perfect thing at the perfect time. Stoicism teaches something far more uncomfortable. Attraction is often decided in seconds, not conversations, and sometimes it takes only 2 words to shift the entire dynamic. Not because the words are magical, but because of what they reveal about the man saying them. Most men talk too much when they want to be desired. They explain, they reassure, they justify, they fill silence with effort. In doing so, they expose uncertainty, attachment, and emotional hunger. And the female mind is exceptionally sensitive to this. A woman is not hooked by information, she is hooked by position. Stoicism teaches that the strongest signal a man can send is not interest but self-command. When a man speaks from self-command, even the smallest expression carries weight. When he speaks from need, even the longest explanation feels empty. This is why certain men say very little and create intense curiosity, while others say everything and create none. The 2 words we are going to talk about in this video are not compliments. They are not flattery, and they are not manipulation. They are words that instantly communicate boundaries, confidence, and emotional independence. And when spoken at the right moment, they flip the dynamic without force. Most men get this wrong because they believe attraction is about adding something, saying more, showing more, giving more. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Attraction often grows when less is revealed but more is implied. The female mind is wired to respond to contrast. Calm versus chaos, certainty versus chasing, presence versus performance. When a man's words reflect calm authority instead of emotional urgency, curiosity activates automatically. And this is where most men sabotage themselves. They try to hook her by proving value. But value is not proven, it is felt. 2 words, when spoken from the right internal posture, can communicate that your time is valuable. Your attention is selective, and your approval is not guaranteed. That is what hooks interest, not because she feels controlled, but because she feels challenged emotionally. This video is not about scripts, it is not about lines, and it is not about tricks. It is about understanding why brevity backed by certainty is far more powerful than effort backed by hope. By the end of this video, you will understand why most men talk their way out of attraction, why silence paired with the right words creates curiosity, and how stoic restraint turns simple language into power. If you have ever felt like you were saying too much and getting less in return, stay with me, because once you understand this principle, you stop trying to impress and start positioning yourself naturally as the prize. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube, it happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits, just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community. Enroll once, grow forever. Let's dive in. Section 1. Why less words create more attraction. The first truth most men must accept is that attraction does not respond to volume. It responds to weight. Stoicism teaches that words only matter when they are supported by internal certainty. When certainty is missing, compensate by talking more. And the more they talk, the more they reveal emotional need. Most men believe silence is dangerous. They fear that if they do not explain, reassure, or entertain, interest will fade. This fear pushes them into over-communication. They fill space with justification. They try to control perception through language. In doing so, they remove mystery and replace it with predictability. A woman does not become hooked by information. She becomes hooked by contrast. Contrast between what is said and what is withheld. When a man speaks briefly and calmly, it signals that his emotional center is not seeking validation. His words feel intentional rather than reactive. That intentionality creates curiosity. Stoicism teaches that self-command is felt before it is understood. When you say less, you allow your presence, tone, and boundaries to speak louder than explanations ever could. This is why two words spoken from certainty can outweigh an entire paragraph spoken from need. Most men sabotage attraction by trying to be understood. They want to clarify intentions. They want to avoid misunderstanding. They want to secure comfort. But attraction does not grow in comfort. It grows in space. When you over-explain, you collapse space. When you speak simply and stop, space returns. The female mind is constantly scanning for emotional leadership. Emotional leadership is not about dominance or control. It is about emotional stability. When a man does not rush to fill silence, it communicates that he is comfortable with uncertainty. Comfort with uncertainty signals strength. High-value men understand this intuitively. They do not rush responses. They do not chase clarity. They do not over-justify decisions. When they speak from alignment, not anxiety. This is why their words feel heavier, not because they are clever, but because they are grounded. Stoicism emphasizes restraint as a form of power. Restraint in emotion, restraint in speech, restraint in reaction. When you restrain speech, you prevent emotional leakage. Emotional leakage is what turns attraction into reassurance seeking. When leakage stops, curiosity starts. Another reason fewer words create attraction is that they force the other person to engage internally. When everything is explained, there is nothing to process. When something is stated simply and left alone, the mind fills the gap. Curiosity is born in that gap. This is why most men talk themselves out of attraction, not because they say the wrong thing, but because they say too much. And too much reveals too soon. The foundation of this entire lesson is simple. Attraction does not respond to effort. It responds to presence. And presence becomes powerful when it is not diluted by unnecessary words. This is why two words, when backed by stoic self-command, can shift an entire dynamic, not because of what they say, but because of what they refuse to explain. Section 2. The two words that signal self-command and why they work. The two words are simple, almost unimpressive at first glance. That is exactly why they work. We'll see. Most men underestimate these words because they are not flattering, emotional, or persuasive. Stoicism teaches that power rarely announces itself. It reveals itself through restraint. Will see works because it communicates certainty without commitment, interest without attachment, and openness without surrendering control. When most men hear a question, suggestion, or emotional probe, they feel pressure to respond decisively. They rush to agree, reassure, or explain. This urgency leaks need. Will see does the opposite. It slows the moment down. It signals that your time, attention, and decisions are governed internally, not by emotional impulse. The female mind responds strongly to this signal because it introduces uncertainty without instability. You are not rejecting. You are not chasing. You are not overcommitting. You are calmly holding your frame. Stoicism teaches that holding your frame is the highest form of leadership in any interaction. Most men destroy attraction by trying to lock things in too early. They want certainty because certainty feels safe. But attraction thrives where curiosity exists. We'll see. Keeps curiosity alive because it neither closes the door nor throws it open. It leaves space. These two words also communicate selectivity. They imply that you consider options, priorities, and alignment before deciding. A man who evaluates rather than reacts signals value instinctively. This is not manipulation. It is self-respect expressed verbally. Another reason these words work is that they remove emotional pressure. When a man agrees too quickly or explains too much, the interaction becomes heavy. Expectations form immediately. Will see keeps the interaction light while maintaining authority. Lightness combined with strength is rare, and rarity creates attraction. Most men fear that saying, "we'll see," makes them seem uninterested. In reality, it makes them seem unavailable without being distant. Stoicism teaches that availability must be intentional. When everything is immediately available, nothing feels earned. Tone matters more than the words themselves. "We'll see" must be spoken calmly without defensiveness, sarcasm, or explanation. It is not a tactic to dodge commitment. It is a reflection of a man who does not rush alignment. When spoken from calm certainty, it lands as confidence. This phrase also protects you. It prevents premature investment. It allows time to observe behavior rather than promises. Stoicism emphasizes judging by actions, not words. "We'll see" buys you space to do exactly that. The power of these two words is not linguistic. It is philosophical. They represent a mindset that does not chase outcomes, does not fear loss, and does not surrender direction to emotion. When a man speaks from that place, even simple language carries weight. This is why these two words hook interest, not because they manipulate emotion, but because they reflect a man who is not governed by it. Section 3. When to use these two words and when they backfire. The power of "we'll see" does not come from repetition, it comes from timing and intent. Stoicism teaches that even the strongest principle fails when applied without wisdom. Used correctly, these two words signal calm authority. Used carelessly, they sound evasive or insecure. Understanding the difference is essential. "We'll see" works best when momentum is present but clarity is being rushed. Moments where expectations are being pushed forward prematurely. Questions like, "What are we? Where is this going? Will you be there? Are you serious? Do you want more?" These moments create pressure, and pressure exposes emotional posture. Most men answer these moments from fear of loss. That fear leaks through tone and explanation. When you respond with, "We'll see" calmly, you slow the interaction down without rejecting it. You communicate that decisions are made from alignment, not urgency. Stoicism teaches that the man who controls pace controls the dynamic. Pace is leadership. However, these words backfire when used defensively. If you say, "We'll see" to avoid accountability, dodge responsibility, or hide uncertainty, it will be felt immediately. Women are highly attuned to emotional incongruence. When words do not match inner state, attraction weakens instead of strengthens. The Stoic use of "we'll see" comes from certainty, not indecision. You are not unsure, you are unrushed. There is a crucial difference. Uncertainty sounds hesitant. Unrushed sounds grounded. The same words can communicate opposite meanings depending on posture. Another moment where "we'll see" works powerfully is when expectations are being placed on your time. Can you come tonight? Can you change plans? Can you always be available? Men often say yes too quickly to prove interest. Stoicism teaches that time is value. "We'll see" protects your time without confrontation. It communicates that your schedule is governed by purpose, not pressure. But if you use "we'll see" too often, it loses weight. High-value men do not repeat phrases mechanically. They respond from principle. The phrase works because it is rare and aligned. When overused, it sounds scripted. Stoicism rejects scripts. It favors presence. Another mistake men make is following "we'll see" with explanation. The moment you explain, you undo the power. Explanation reintroduces need. "We'll see" must be allowed to stand alone. Silence, afterward, is not awkward. It is intentional space. Space invites curiosity. Stoicism teaches that the strongest communication often ends early. When you stop speaking, the other person begins processing. Processing creates emotional engagement. Overspeaking shuts that process down. Finally, "we'll see" should never be used to manipulate or string someone along. The Stoic man values integrity. If alignment is missing, he eventually clarifies through action. The phrase is not avoidance. It is patience paired with observation. Used correctly, Will see is not about control, it is about self-command. It shows that you do not rush intimacy, do not surrender pace, and do not fear outcomes. This is why these two words work only when backed by character. Without character, they are empty. With character, they become powerful. Section 4. How these two words change her behavior without force. When spoken from the right internal posture, will see does something most men never achieve through effort. It removes emotional control from the interaction without creating distance. Stoicism teaches that the one who controls their reactions controls the dynamic. These two words quietly reclaim that control. Most men try to influence behavior directly. They explain expectations. They reassure. They negotiate outcomes. All of these attempts place emotional weight on the interaction and invite resistance. When you say, "We'll see," calmly, and stop, you remove that weight entirely. There is nothing to push against, nothing to argue with, nothing to manage. The female mind responds to this shift immediately, often unconsciously. When emotional certainty is removed, curiosity activates. Curiosity does not feel like pressure. It feels like movement. She begins to observe more closely. She pays attention to your consistency. She evaluates alignment rather than assuming access. Stoicism teaches that attraction deepens where freedom exists. We'll see. Creates a freedom. You are not promising, you are not withholding, you are simply allowing reality to unfold. That freedom is felt as emotional confidence, not indifference. Another critical change this phrase creates is reversed effort. When a man stops chasing clarity, the need for clarity shifts to the other side. She begins to test subtly. She asks questions differently. She invests more emotionally to regain certainty. This is not manipulation. It is natural psychological balance restoring itself. Most men never experience this because they fill every gap with reassurance. Gaps are where attraction lives. When you allow a gap to exist, her mind steps into it. When you eliminate gaps, nothing needs to move. We'll see. Also changes how you are perceived long-term. You are no longer the man who rushes availability or certainty. You become the man whose decisions are deliberate. Deliberate men feel rare. Rare men feel valuable. Stoicism teaches that value is asserted, it is inferred. Importantly, this phrase also protects you from overinvestment. It keeps your emotional center intact. You remain observant rather than reactive. When you do this consistently, your standards stay visible without being stated, and visible standards create respect. Most men fear that removing emotional certainty will cause loss. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Removing certainty reveals truth. If interest exists, it grows. If it does not, it fades quickly. Both outcomes are clean. Both preserve dignity. What truly hooks interest is not the phrase itself, but the calm silence that follows it. Silence communicates comfort with ambiguity. Comfort with ambiguity signals strength. Strength invites attraction. When you say, "We'll see," and continue living your life without checking for reaction, something powerful happens. You demonstrate that your world does not pause for approval. That posture is magnetic because it reflects self-command. This is why these two words work without force. They do not push behavior. They invite response. And response is always more powerful than compliance. Section 5. Why most men lose power by overusing this principle. The greatest mistake men make after learning a powerful principle is turning it into a habit instead of a posture. Stoicism teaches that principles must be lived, not repeated mechanically. We'll see as effective because it reflects inner certainty. The moment it becomes a routine response, it loses its weight. Most men, once they feel a shift in dynamic, try to recreate it deliberately. They begin saying, "We'll see," too often in moments where clarity is actually appropriate. This overuse reveals intention, and intention leaks need. The female mind is highly sensitive to repetition that feels strategic rather than natural. High-value men do not cling to phrases. They respond from alignment. Sometimes alignment calls for decisiveness. Sometimes it calls for restraint. We'll see. Works only when restraint is authentic. When used to avoid vulnerability, responsibility, or honest direction, it creates distrust rather than attraction. Stoicism teaches that strength is adaptability rooted in principle. A man who always defers, delays, or withholds clarity eventually feels evasive. Attraction does not thrive on confusion. It thrives on balance. The same man who knows when to slow pace must also know when to lead decisively. Another way men lose power is by using these words reactively. When said with irritation, sarcasm, or passive resistance, we'll see communicates emotional defensiveness. Defensiveness is weakness, not strength. The phrase must always come from calm neutrality. If emotion is present, silence is often the better choice. Men also sabotage this principle by monitoring reaction afterward. They say the words, then watch closely for changes in tone, messages, or behavior. This internal checking reintroduces need. Stoicism teaches that once you act from principle, you release attachment to outcome. Attachment after action cancels authority. High-value men say what aligns, then move forward with their lives. They do not wait to see if it worked. That detachment is what makes it work. Another common mistake is using "will see" to maintain access when alignment is already gone. Stoicism does not teach holding doors open indefinitely. When misalignment becomes clear, decisive action is required. The phrase is not meant to prolong ambiguity. It is meant to prevent premature commitment. The power of these two words exists only when they are supported by a life with direction. If your life lacks structure, purpose, and discipline, restraint feels empty. When your life is full, restraint feels natural. Words follow life, not the other way around. Stoicism teaches that language is the echo of identity. If identity is unstable, language cannot compensate. High-value men understand that attraction responds to who you are consistently, not what you say occasionally. The final lesson of this section is simple. Do not try to sound powerful. Be grounded. Speak less because you need less. Decide slower because you are not rushed. Respond calmly because you are not afraid of outcomes. When those conditions are present, two words can change everything. When they are not, no words ever will. Section 6. Why these two words only work when your life has gravity. The final and most important truth most men miss is this. The power of these two words does not come from speech. It comes from what stands behind the silence after them. Stoicism teaches that words are only effective when they are supported by a life that does not need immediate outcomes. When a man says, "We'll see," but his life is empty, reactive, or directionless, the phrase feels hollow. There is no gravity behind it, no structure, no momentum. In that case, the words sound like hesitation instead of confidence. This is why some men try this principle and feel it doesn't work. It is not the words that fail. It is the foundation beneath them. High V value. Men have gravity because their lives are already moving forward. Their time is occupied by purpose, discipline, growth, and direction. They are not waiting for someone to give them meaning. Meaning already exists. When such a man says, "We'll see," it carries weight because his world does not pause for answers. Stoicism teaches that attraction follows direction. A man who knows where he is going does not rush decisions about who comes with him. He evaluates alignment calmly. That calm evaluation is what creates intrigue. When your life has gravity, your restraint feels natural. When it does not, restraint feels forced. This is why these two words cannot be used to compensate for lack of substance. If you are constantly available, constantly waiting, constantly checking for response, no phrase will mask that energy. The female mind does not respond to language alone. It responds to behavioral consistency over time. High V value men say little because they have little to prove. They move slowly because they are not afraid of loss. They delay decisions because their direction does not depend on anyone else's approval. We'll see simply reflects that posture externally. Another reason gravity matters is because it creates non-neediness without distance. You are present but not dependent, interested but not attached. This balance is only possible when your identity is anchored internally. Stoicism teaches that attachment to outcomes weakens influence. Detachment rooted in purpose strengthens it. Men often ask when to say these two words. The deeper question is whether their life supports them. Do you have routines you protect, standards you enforce, goals you pursue regardless of response? When those elements are in place, your words naturally slow down. You do not rush because nothing is missing. This section completes the lesson. These two words are not a shortcut to attraction. They are a reflection of a man who is no longer chasing certainty. When your life has gravity, you do not need to hook anyone. People feel pulled naturally. Stoicism teaches that the most attractive quality a man can have is not charm, confidence, or cleverness. It is self-direction. And self-direction speaks loudest when you are willing to say less and mean more. This is why these two words work only when your life is already full. They are not a trick. They are proof. In short, the real lesson was never about the words themselves. It was about the man behind them. Stoicism teaches that language does not create power. Character does. Words only reveal what already exists internally. This is why most men fail even when they learn the right things to say. They try to borrow confidence through language instead of building it through alignment. We'll see works not because it is clever, mysterious, or strategic. It works because it comes from a man who does not rush, does not fear outcomes, and does not need to secure approval to feel whole. When those qualities are present, even the smallest phrase carries authority. Most men talk too much because they are afraid of silence. Silence feels like loss of control to someone who needs validation. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Silence is where control returns to the man who is comfortable standing alone in his decisions. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you stop negotiating your worth. The moment you stop rushing certainty, attraction regains space to grow. And the moment you stop fearing loss, your presence becomes solid. These two words are not a trick to hook someone emotionally. They are a mirror. They reflect whether you are living from need or from self-command. If you say them hoping for a reaction, they lose power. If you say them because you genuinely are not rushed, they land naturally. This is the Stoic paradox. You gain influence when you stop trying to influence. You gain attraction when you stop chasing attraction. You gain respect when you stop asking for it. A man who lives with direction, discipline, and inner order does not need many words. His pace speaks. His boundaries speak. His calm speaks. When a woman feels that your world does not orbit around her reactions, curiosity replaces control. And curiosity is the root of attraction. Remember this clearly. No phrase will save a man who lacks self-respect. No silence will help a man who fears being alone. And no strategy will work for a man whose life has no gravity.